Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to wait a couple minutes just to make sure that everybody who was planning on joining has been able to get themselves logged in. So please stand by. We'll get started in about 2 minutes. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. We're just taking another minute here to make sure everybody that was planning on attend has a chance to get themselves logged in. So we will get started in about 1 more minute. All right, I think we'll get started. I think we have most of those that were intending to join us today. So welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here. The topic we're planning on covering is Oracle's latest update for HCM Cloud 20D, and specifically in this webinar, we're focusing on global and US payroll updates. So we're going to take you through what's coming out with 20D and give you our perspective on this particular update. My name is Lila Ravi. I'm a Director of Pre-Sales here at Evosys. And our speaker today, Kumar Vikram, who is from our Center of Excellence and has very good background and experience with Oracle updates. So we're going to take you through this and hope it gives you good perspective on the most recent update. So our agenda for today, first of all, we're going to explain to you, in case you haven't been on these before, how we handle Oracle updates, what are the steps involved, and how that process will work for you. After we've covered that, we're going to take you through our analysis of the latest release. We're going to let you know what the new features are. If there were any known issues, then we would tell you about those. So Oracle will typically publish if there are known issues when they release an update. And so we inform you about any of those that have been published by Oracle at this time. We're then going to talk a little bit about our managed services practice and help you understand why we think it's of value and perhaps a better offering than some of the other partners that are out there. And finally, we're going to open it up for questions. So you have a question section in your GoToWebinar control panel, and you can open that up and you can ask a question there. You also have the chat area. So either area can be used for asking questions, and when we get to the end of the presentation, we'll leave sufficient time. So if you have questions, we'll be able to go over those. All right, so there are 4 major steps around handling an update from Oracle. And so we're just going to walk through what those steps are and how that works for you. So first of all, we go through and do our analysis. We want to understand what all is being provided with this update and what might be of use, what's the level of effort that's associated with implementing these changes. So we want to give you a full understanding of what all is coming with a particular update and how you might be impacted by it. Once we have that understanding, then we're going to work with you on planning. So we're going to put together a plan for which of the features we're going to implement for you, what kind of testing needs to occur, and then depending on the feature, there may be some communications either to some of the other back office people that support the application or more broadly to your end users. So we'll work through that whole plan with you to make sure you're prepared once the update has been applied. We certainly want to do our testing. And so if there's impact on existing configuration, then we would conduct regression testing to make sure that the new features have not impacted any of your other configuration. If there is no impact to existing configuration, then we would still want to do user acceptance testing just to make sure you're comfortable with how the new feature works and that you're going to be able to accurately use it within Oracle. And finally, when we've completed our testing, then we'll go ahead and let Oracle know that those new features can be moved into your production environment, and then we would continue with any post-production support that might be required. All right, so what you're seeing now, we're going to have these new feature slides. So each new feature will have a separate slide, and we just want to explain how to read those slides in case you haven't seen these before to make sure that you understand what we're presenting for you. So at the top in the header, we're going to describe what that new feature is. And then we give you a more detailed explanation of the feature, which hopefully gives you enough clarity on what is the new feature for, what's its purpose. But then we also have business benefits. So we'll talk about why you might want to take advantage of it, what it might do for your organization. And certainly we can talk about that further if there's questions on the benefits or how it would benefit your business. On the right side of the slide, we have our impact analysis. So we've kind of summarized it for you in a quick, easy to read format so you can quickly assess what that feature means to you. So first of all, the impact level, whether it's low or high. If it's a low impact, that means that we believe that the new feature does not impact any of your existing setup or configuration, and therefore we don't feel that regression testing is needed for that particular feature. If it's high, then we would expect to include it in any regression testing that we would be doing for this update. Whether or not we enable, yes or no, whether it comes enabled. So if Oracle delivers it enabled, then we don't have to turn it on. It's already there, ready to be used. And so that would have a no. If it's yes, that means it's a feature that you opt in, and we would need to enable it for you if you want to go ahead and use that feature. Configuration. Is there additional setup that has to be done in order to accommodate this new feature? And if it's yes, then we would plan to do that configuration and talk through that with you to make sure you're comfortable with what configuration we're going to do. No, it means the feature can be used without any additional setup work, and so we don't have to worry about those configuration conversations. And finally, what might be most important to you is the quick win, yes or no. The idea here being, hey, it's a new feature and you can very quickly take advantage of it, don't really need to do a lot of setup or testing. We can just go ahead and start using it. So that's a nice one to look at, whether it's yes or no. If it's no, then that means there's some time to do setup, configuration, there's probably a bit of testing involved, and we just want to be prepared for the additional time that we're going to need to take advantage of that new feature. All right. And so our analysis on this latest update, that there are 15 new features for payroll that are delivered with this 20D update. Of those 15, 12 of them we perceive to be quick wins that you're going to be able to take advantage of without a lot of effort associated with them. But there are 3 that are more complex. And so Vikram will take you through this and talk more about what's involved with those particular features. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll for you here. So I've opened up the poll, and we can give you like 30 to 40 seconds to answer the poll. We're running neck and neck on voting here. Oh, well, now we seem to have a clear trend, and looks like most people have voted, so I'm going to kind of consider that pretty much. We'll give it a couple more seconds here, just make sure there's nobody else with a last minute vote. All right, so closing the poll, and let me now share. So our poll results that most of you do think there's value addition to these quarterly updates, but there are a few people that perceive them only as overhead. So we hope for those of you that think it's only overhead, that as we go through the benefits, the business benefits, and some of the quick wins, that maybe you'll see a little bit more value in the quarterly updates. But we just thought it was interesting to kind of get people's opinions on what they think. So thank you for voting. We appreciate you doing that. All right, so moving on here. Okay, and so we have our analysis that we've done. And so at this point, I am going to hand things over to Vikram so that he can now start to go through the specific details of this update and help you better understand what's included.
All right. Thanks, Laila, for explaining the process. Hello, everyone. Myself, Kumar Vikram. And as Laila mentioned, I'll be walking you through all the new features. So there are a couple of ones. So majority of features which came across in this particular release were around a global payroll. And there are only few which are around the US specific payroll. So I'll walk you through all of them. The first one which I want to take here is the quick wins, which does not require any configuration. So the very first which we have here is around the elements, so the payroll elements. So previously what used to happen is whenever we are creating an element, and if it fails because of certain reason, maybe because the name which we have entered is not in line with what Oracle expects, or maybe because of any other reason, so that element used to stick there in progress status and we were not able to delete it. But now Oracle has provided us with an option so that you can delete that particular element if it is in progress status, and you can recreate the element again. So the impact analysis for this particular feature is that it is enabled by default and it does not require any kind of configuration. I would say the impact is low, and definitely it's a quick win because it's by default enabled. And the business benefit which we are getting out of it is that you no longer need any scripts for deleting these elements and creating the same. The next feature which we have here is submitted by filter. So as you might be aware that a payroll, when we are processing a payroll, there are a lot of payroll owners who are part of that process. So there are certain processes, like maybe the core payroll processes till payroll calculation is being done by certain owners, and then the costing processes are being done by certain other owners in the payroll team, or maybe outside the payroll team. So previously it was getting very difficult to identify who has submitted what processes and then try to locate the results of that process. So Oracle came up with this new feature that they have included a submitted by filter, so that you can search your teammate and locate all the processes which they have submitted, what's the status of those processes, and if any actions which need to be taken, you can definitely take. So the business benefit I would say coming out of it is it's better search, and if you have a bigger payroll team, it will really help you out to smoothen the process. Impact, again, it's I would not say that it's a very huge impact, but for certain customers it might be very useful. No need to enable, it is enabled by default if you are upgraded to 20D. No configuration is required, and definitely this is also a quick win. As we are going through these features, I would request, if you have any questions which are coming to your mind, please feel free to ask in the webinar, and our team will definitely try to reach out to those. Okay, moving on to the next feature, which is about a display element code. So to those of you who are really into configurations and who are setting up new elements as and when required, you might be aware that previously we were able to change the display names of the elements. So as soon as the element is created, we are able to change the display names. And what happens is, when you do that, then the duplicacy of the name happens in the system. So you might end up creating the same element with the same name, and then it creates problems. So now Oracle has provided a better search functionality where you can add the element code also in the element search screen. So by adding, you'll be able to easily identify that these elements are different, and you need not to change the names. Apart from that, from a more technical standpoint, these element names, most of the time we are using in our FOST formulas, which stand behind the payroll calculations. So at there, the element name, if you're changing, then you might have to change the formula also. But now if you're using the codes and you are using the codes in the formulas as Oracle uses it, then it is a win-win. So you don't need to worry about that. And the business benefit is it's easy identification of elements, as over a period of time a lot of elements get created in the system, and most of the time there are confusions because the elements might have the same name. Coming to the impact analysis, impact is, I would say, it's still low. No need to enable it. It will be enabled by default. There is no configuration required, and this is also a quick win. The next feature is around the deduction elements. So what previously used to happen in before 20 days, that as soon as you're done with creating the deduction elements and you have answered all the element creation questions and you have created the eligibilities of those particular elements, you are not able to change the certain attributes of those elements. But now in the 20D, what they came up with is that they have provided questions which says processing stop when the total is reached. So if you are saying no to that particular question, then Oracle will not create those calculation rules in the background. And that was the reason why it was previously stopping you from changing those attributes. Now, if you say no to that question, what will happen is system will also allow you to change the multiple entries flag from N to Y. Let me take an example here to how it will impact. So you created let's suppose you have a new 401k element. Previously, you were using as a percentage basis that, and then now it was supposed to come out of the regular payroll run, that if there is a regular payroll run which is happening, then only it should get processed in that. But later you realized that this percentage of 401k should also come out from the supplemental check, or we say the bonus check. To make it happen, you have to go in and change that multiple entries flag to yes. So if you do that, then only that 401k element will be processed for both the checks. So this is how it is impacting. So let's imagine a scenario where you have already started processing all the elements and they've been processed and you're not able to change it. So the only way previously was to create a new element and do all the balance adjustments later, which was unnecessary, creating a lot of additional steps and can also lead to some errors. But now with this, you will be able to change these flags, provided it meets all the eligibility criteria. So I would say the impact level is from low to medium. To certain customers, it might impact significantly. No need to enable and no need to configure it. It is also a quick win. One thing to note here is that if you have already created those elements in the past, and if you want to do those changes, then you might have to run the upgrade element process before doing it. But if you are creating any future elements, then system will take care of it by default. Next feature is around retro, which I think is quite interesting, because previously what used to happen is if you have a new hire and by mistake there was an error in the hire date, then that particular new hire, his or her payroll might get impacted, and the retro was not getting triggered if you change the hire date. So with this update, what is going to happen is if you are changing an employee hire date, then will detect that as a change. And if that hire date goes to a period where it is already been processed in the payroll, then all the information or the payroll calculation will be done and posted in that open payroll period. So that as soon as you hired, as soon as you change the hire date, system will detect that it is a change. And if the period falls, if the payroll period which is already processed and the hire date falls in that period, system will try to calculate the payroll for that. So definitely I would say the business benefit is it is process optimization. And when you are processing a lot of new hires, and maybe because they are coming from a inbound integration, then or maybe you are manually entering them in system, so there are times when these mistakes happen. and if system is able to rectify and post or calculate the payroll results in that period, then nothing would be better than that. So again, from an impact analysis standpoint, I would say it is medium to high, and this feature is enabled by default. There is no configuration which is required to do this, and definitely it is a quick win. The next feature is around posting the results or the processing, payroll post processing with consolidation group parameter. All right. So let me take you with an example here. What used to happen previously is whenever we are processing payrolls and whenever we are processing, let's say, costing of payment or costing which happens by default because of payroll calculation, then at that time, if there is, you are not choosing any consolidation group as a parameter, system will post all the results depending on the payroll which you have selected. So now from 20D, what will happen is if you are running any costing process with consolidation group parameter, then automatically you'll be able to transfer those results to ledger or to the sub ledger with just the consolidation parameter. So you don't need to submit individual processes for each payroll. So if you have a weekly payroll and if you have a bi-weekly payroll, or you might have multiple payrolls, in that case, you don't have to submit the processes for each individual payroll to transfer all these results to the cash management. If you are submitting the process with just the consolidation group, system will make sure that all the payments which have been captured against that consolidation group will move to the subledger or any other downstream application. Again, this brings a lot of process optimization as a business benefit. Impact is again low to medium. This feature is enabled by default and it does not require any configuration. It might require some kind of training if there are certain owners who've been doing and running these processes, just to make sure that they understand it, that if they're processing any costing of payments or transfer to ledger processes, they need to choose this consolidation group parameter. So definitely it is a quick win. Moving on to the next feature, which is around data loader capabilities. So what Oracle is doing is in every release they are coming up with a lot of data loader capabilities. They want to enhance it, and in this release also they came up with this particular feature where if you want to manage certain information against payroll relationships, then that can also be uploaded through HCM data loader. For US specific customers, it might not impact that significantly, but for other customers, other regions where the payroll relationship information gets captured, this is going to be a good feature for them because they will be able to upload payroll relationship data using HCM data loader. So impact is again low to medium, and this feature is enabled by default, and it's a quick win. Atom feeds for assigned payroll updates. So this particular feature is around, I would say, integrations. So if you have built certain integrations, be it inbound or outbound integrations using Atom feeds, then this feature is going to help you out. What Oracle has done is they have enhanced the Atom feeds for payroll assignments or changes. As an example, if somebody is moving from a weekly payroll to a bi-weekly payroll, so that is a change. So that particular Atom feed will detect that change, and if any downstream applications we are sending data to that application, that Atom feed would be able to send that information in the runtime. So I would say it will definitely optimize the way we handle integrations, and any subsequent changes which happen because of payroll updates can be fed to the respective downstream applications, if any. And as atom feeds are real time, so it generates those feeds in real time and helps you to send that information. So impact again varies from customer to customer, where if you are using the atom feeds to send the information, then it might impact you to a greater extent. If you are not, and if you're planning to do that, then definitely that impact might be low to medium. Again, it is enabled by default. There is no configuration required, and it's a quick win. Next one is around consolidation group code. So this particular feature is not from not from the process standpoint, I would say, is going to impact you much, but it is more from a configuration standpoint. So this is more from where previously consolidation group we used to capture only the names, and every process which used to run is get stamped with that consolidation name. Now what will happen is that the code also system will allow to enter you a code for that consolidation group. So if you change the consolidation group name, and so you would not be able to change the code. So any process which gets submitted with that particular consolidation group will be stamped with the code, not with the name. So, and also if you want to migrate certain data through HCM data loader, the same code can be used in that. So I would say the business benefit is better control, impact is low, and this feature is also enabled by default, and it's a quick win. Moving on to the next feature. All right, so this one is around reports. So I would say this is going to be interesting, where what Oracle has done is Oracle realized that the amount of data which gets processed in a particular payroll is huge, right? So there's a significant amount of data involved, and the amount of time it takes to run these reports is also huge. And there, because of deadlines, like because of weekly payrolls and bi-weekly payrolls, which have very short deadlines, it becomes very important that these reports provide the data accurate. That is one thing, but also fast. So they have enhanced these two reports, and they have included certain more dimensions to these reports. So previously only, I would say, period to date and year to date balances were a part of these reports, but now they have also given an option where you can include month to date, quarter to date, inception to date dimensions also for the payroll balances. So the way they have included these changes is they have provided certain parameters. So while running the report, if you are choosing the parameters the way you want, then report output would be according to that. So this change impacts currently periodic payroll activity report and the statutory deduction register. So both of these reports have been enhanced. Now how it will impact the current customers who are already using those reports. So what they can do is they can stop using the current reports, and they can move on to the enhanced report versions which have been included. Or if you have made any changes to the old reports, be it in the extract definition which is generating this report, then you might need to do those changes in the new report also. Apart from including all of these different dimensions and increasing the speed, they have also included certain file formats which were not existing before. So previously PDF and Excel were the two formats which were being used across multiple customers. Now they have included an option to export the data into CSV and TXT files also, so that as soon as you extract the data in CSV, it becomes easy to copy and paste in an Excel template. So those two options are also being done. So the impact again would be from low to medium, and there is no need to enable it. It is enabled by default. Configuration, I have mentioned no, but it might be if you have changed already the existing reports or any certain definitions, then you might have to do those changes in this report. And that's the reason it might not be a quick win for you, because of this change if you have to do. If you are a new customer and you've been using the same CD reports, then it's a quick win for you. So I would say the business benefit is the performance is significantly improved, and as soon as you start using these reports, you will definitely realize that. All right, moving on to the next feature, which is around a global transfer enhancement for deferred compensation plans. Okay, so before I explain, so just wanted to make sure that if you have any questions, and feel free to ask them. Our team will definitely try to answer them as we are moving. If not, if you want to have those questions at the end of the webinar, that is also fine. So this feature is particularly for US customers where all of these deferred compensation plans are applicable. So what the enhancement is around the amount of data that moves from one PSU or one legal entity to another. So previously Oracle in 20C, they have introduced a lot of data points which were moving from, I would say, the one legal entity to the another. But 401k data or the element entries which were getting created, those were not moving to the new legal entity. So let's take an example here. So if you have an employee who's getting global transferred, that means moving from one legal entity or a PSU to another, then all of the 401k setup, be it the balances, the amount of 401k has been deducted, then be it the element entries, be it the 403B or be it the 457B, all of those plans and their information will also move to the new legal entity. So moving forward in 20D, you don't have to recreate those element entries or make sure the balances are updated. That will happen automatically as soon as you run this global transfer process. So I would say the impact is high because it definitely impacts the way you handle these processes, and this feature is enabled by default. No need to enable it. There is no configuration required, and this is definitely a quick win. Affordable Care Act enhancement. So this feature is again US specific. So this particular feature is around the enhancement in the ACA reporting. So what Oracle has done is they have included certain date options. So depending on the options you will choose while running this particular report, the output would be in line with that. So as an example, what happens is if you are choosing the first day of the month as an eligibility criteria for that particular month, then report will show that when exactly the employee's benefit eligibility begins and ends. So this feature is around ACA reporting. So if you are using Oracle out of the box ACA reporting, then it will definitely help you out. And so the impact, I would say, is low, and no need to enable it, and there is no configuration required, and it is a quick win. All right, so with this, we have finished all those features which does not require any kind of configuration or enablement. So those were the 12 features which we discussed. Now there are certain features which require a little bit of configuration, and I'll be discussing those. So this feature is particularly around data security. So if you are, as an organization, are having employees which are having multiple assignments, so the employees are having multiple jobs, and each job has different pay rates, different element entries, and the payroll gets processed for them separately. if you are as an organization are handling those, then this feature is going to help you out significantly. So Oracle introduced this assignment level security so that depending on the criteria which you define for the person security, it will help you to restrict certain assignments from certain processes. So as an example, if you see, there are different tasks with which this security gets impacted. So if the very first is the payroll relationship. So if you have set up the assignment security profile, then you will only be able to view certain payroll relationships for certain assignments depending on the access you have. If you are given a data security in terms of element entries, then you will be able to enter or make changes to the element entries only for certain assignments. You will not be able to view the elements on certain other assignments which you do not have access to. Similarly for calculation entries and for costing of a person. So these are the different 4 tasks where this new assignment level security feature is getting impacted at the moment. So it does not impact any other area. So when I say any other area means you would still be able to view all their assignments in the employment screen if you have access to that. So it will only impact these 4 different tasks in the system. So the business benefit I would say that is coming out of is the data security, definitely. And previously there was no way to do that, and now we would be able to handle it. You need to enable it, yes, because you might need to update your existing roles to add this particular assignment level security. So yes, definitely there is a little bit of configuration required, and yes, it is a quick win. Next is the prepayment and the payment results responsive pages. So this, so previously, if you have noticed, in 20C, Oracle moved majority of the payroll pages to the new responsive pages. That means they are more friendly towards mobile and other devices. So, but there were certain pages like prepayments and payment results pages, they were still not to the responsive pages. Now, Oracle has moved those pages also to the responsive UI, and they have included certain details which is going to help the payroll processors. So as an example, if you can see on the screen, they have included the bank account details in the prepayment results, and also they have provided certain actions which you can take on the payment results. So as an example, if you realize that employee was not having a bank account and a check got generated, because by the time you did the calculation there was no bank account and a check was generated, then you can void that check payment here and can enter that bank account and retry the payroll results. So then the new bank account details will be processed. So from this screen itself you would be able to void those check payments or void the payments as and when required. Also, if you are checking these results for a certain employee, you would be able to move different payroll periods. So there is a process LOV on these pages which would help you to move from different payroll periods. Let's suppose you want to see the results of this period and then you want to compare it to the results of the previous period. That would also can be done from the same page itself without going back. So the business benefit is it is definitely mobile friendly now because it's moved to responsive. Impact, I would say it's low to medium. And as far as enablement is concerned, yes, you need to enable it if you have not already enabled the profile options for responsive UI. If you are already using those profile options and using the new responsive UI, there is no need to enable it. It does not require a configuration also apart from that. All right. So moving on to our last feature, which is around the 403B and 45CB tax levy deduction support. So in this feature particularly, Oracle introduced certain calculation values which can be entered for federal tax levy calculations. So what system will give you now is that they will give you an option where you can choose those values, and system will use that percentage or the amount as a calculation for determining the eligible earnings. So as an example, if you entered a 5%, and then system will calculate the 5% on that particular balance. If it is a 403B eligible earnings, it will take 5% from that. If it is a 457 eligible earnings, it will take 5% for that. So the business benefit is it allows now entry of other deferred compensation percentages. So previously 401k was there, but now it is allowing for 403B and 457B also. So impact is low to high because not these plans being used across many customers. So maybe if you are using, then it is a high impact or a medium impact to you. If you are not, then it is a low impact. Need to enable, yes. So you have to run the processes, the element upgrade processes, if you have not run that in the past. And yes, it is a quick win. So I think with this, we are coming to an end of all the features which we wanted to cover. I'll pass it back to Laila for talking us through how we are managing these services. Over to you, Laila.
Thank you very much. All right, everybody. So as a reminder, we do have the question section on your GoToMeeting, I don't know, call it dashboard, control panel, whatever you'd like to refer to that as. So if you have questions, now would be a good time to enter those in the question section. And then as soon as we finish a couple slides here, we'll open it up for those questions and we can go through whatever questions you have and get you some answers. So our managed service offering, for those of you that are attending that maybe don't already subscribe to our managed services, just want to take a few minutes here and talk a little bit about our managed service offering and why we think it's beneficial. Next slide, please. There we go. All right. So, most partners will kind of do the analysis piece, but we really work with our customers for planning how you want to take advantage of the new release, help you with creating testing plans for regression testing as well as user acceptance testing, and then post go live for the update, we will continue to support you and work with you through any issues, any questions, and make sure that you're comfortable with the new features, as well as documenting if there's any feedback to make sure that the process is as smooth as possible and provides our customers with as much benefit as possible. So, our managed service offering, we try to give you extra value. We're not just trying to put in an update and move on. We're trying to make sure that our customers are truly getting the value out of Oracle, getting improvements in their organizations. And as a part of that, we have a key performance indicator or a KPI driven approach that we use. So we will work with you to determine what's important to your organization, how could you benefit as an organization or as a business or a department from the use of Oracle Cloud. And then we'll work with you on the implementation of features and functions that will allow you to achieve that value. And we look for feedback. So we don't just say we did it. We're going to look for you to tell us, did we accomplish what you were looking for? And you can see our average rating, 4.6 out of 5. We're pretty proud of that. We think it's pretty darn good and shows that most of our customers are pretty happy with the services that we're providing and are seeing value for those services. All right, so we're going to open it up for questions now. I don't see any questions in the question section, but if you do have questions, again, please post them there. I don't know if you raise your hand if we'll be able to take you off mute. I'm not sure if we can do that, but if you post the question, we certainly can get it there and then answer it for all of you. So we'll hold here for a couple minutes to see if we get any questions or anything through the chat area. And we'll go from there. Okay, still not seeing any questions, but looks like we still have a good number of you on the webinar. So again, if you have any questions, please post them in the questions section or in chat, whatever's easier for you. We'll give it another minute or so just to see if anybody's got questions for us. And if not, then we will conclude our webinar. All right, why don't we go to the next slide? It doesn't look like we have any questions coming in, so might as well wrap our few remaining slides here. All right, so what's going to happen from here? First of all of you that signed up, we will send you a copy. Oh, and we now have a question that came in about can they get a copy of the slides? And yes, so we will send to all attendees a copy of the slides, so you'll have the notes. We also have recorded the session, so you'll be able to look that up and listen to it again. Or listen to it more closely, whatever's needed there. And we will provide you with the test scripts that you would want to use for testing out 20D. We're also going to send you a feedback form. Always want to hear from all of you if there are things we could have done differently or better. Absolutely happy to do that. So please fill out the feedback form and let us know if there are ways we can improve on this and make this a better experience for you. You can speak with your project manager if there's any additional support or information that you feel that you need around the quarterly update. We're happy to provide that. So we've got the address here, business@evosysglobal.com. And we can certainly help you if there's more you want to know about next generation cloud management services. So if you are not currently subscribed to our managed support and are interested in it, then we would love to talk with you more and get you signed up. And finally, you know, there will be future sessions. Oh, and anyhow, so we will do these on a regular basis with each update from Oracle. So we're here to help you, want to hear from you if there's anything we can do for you. So feel free to contact your project manager. You've got our website address there and email, so plenty of ways to get a hold of us, and we look for those contacts so we can help you out more. So thank you very much for attending today. We appreciate all of you joining. We hope you found this beneficial, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.